I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
I feel like it's some music playing or something. Guys, welcome to the I May Destroy You panel. I'm your host, Sierra Stafford, and before we get into this jam-packed episode, two-series episode, I have some lovely hosts with me tonight. So I have Mrs. Lauren Hubbard, Mr. Sean McHugh, and Mr. Nye Moore. How are you doing today?
Hey.
Good, thank you.
Doing good, yes. So, we're talking about I May Destroy You. Now, I want to ask you guys, before we get into the episode, this is with Michaela. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Michaela, but she was big off of chewing gum. So this is another show she has, and I just want to give my props to her because she's doing it. And I feel like the shows she does are so her, like she can relate to them. But before we get into the both episodes, I want to know you guys' overall thoughts because this is something very new, and we're going to talk about 2 episodes tonight. So Lauren, I want to start with you, and what were just your overall thoughts of episode 1 and episode 2?
I was very confused and my face was like this the whole time, but it's entertaining and I agree she's very authentic to herself and I was entertained. I was like on the edge of my seat as well.
Okay. And Sean, what you got?
I'm similar. I thought I might be the old head in the club for this show because I was
like,
what is going on? And I don't understand. And it took me about 20 minutes to finally kind of, okay, now I see where we're going. But, very entertaining, very authentic. This is definitely a voice we haven't really seen before. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Okay. And last but not least,
I love it. I loved it because I thought chewing gum was hilarious. I thought this episode was hilarious. And a lot of stuff people don't think is funny, I think it's hilarious, especially with dry comedy television. It's my favorite. And also, she reminds me of how Issa Rae's style is. It's so authentic and you can relate to at least something or you can kind of get hooked to it in some type of way. And also, she's a Black film writer too. So, I just had to give my props to her.
I second the Issa because that was going through my mind too.
Yes.
So now that we know what we feel about it, let's get right into it. So we're going to start with episode 1. And I want to say I love that they came out even though I was confused, I ain't gonna lie. But they came out hard and strong, and they wanted us to really paint the picture for us. So starting off with episode 1, so Arabella, so that's who Michaela, that's her character. She's Arabella, and so she's visiting her boyfriend who's in Italy, and she's from London. And so really, honestly, I don't know if they're a boyfriend and girlfriend, if they're just like a long distance fling, because his vibe I wasn't feeling. So I want to ask.
We'll go with that.
But first impression of this relationship because we see, she's about to leave Italy to go back to London. She has some work to do. She's a writer. She's about to work on her second book. But his kind of reaction to her leaving wasn't very lovey-dovey. So first impression. I'm gonna go ahead and go with you, Lauren. What was your first impression of this relationship?
I agree. There was no hug or kiss goodbye. He was kind of short with her and she was like, call me and, will you be my boyfriend? And he's like, no. So, it's just, I was like, okay, how did this even happen? Do y'all like each other?
Yeah, it was weird. So now I see you shake your head. What you do?
I cringed the entire time. I was making a smoothie and I heard her ask this man if he would be her boyfriend. I had to stop the smoothie because I couldn't believe that she asked this man that. First off, if I was her friend and she told me this story about what happened, I would tell her, drop him like a hot potato. First of all, he probably didn't pay for her cab to get home or to the airport. He looked like he really didn't care. And on top of that, he should be making her feel where she doesn't even have to question, what I hope, the whole time I'm just thinking, I hope there's no guys watching this thinking that girls are going to start asking you to be their boyfriend.
Well, Sean's watching.
I hope you don't ask girls. I hope girls are not asking that. I really hope they're not. Like,
That's hilarious. I love that you said that, Sana. Like, don't think it's the roadmap, gentlemen. This is not the roadmap. I thought it was very interesting too. First of all, like Italy looked. I was like, are we in Italy or are we in LA? Like, wow, it didn't even look like Italy, right? So that was kind of weird. But then like he's literally like, "Ciao, Bella. I'll call you when I want to call you." And I was like,
Yes.
wow, this dude is not even playing. Like he's like, good luck. Hopefully you get home. I guess. I mean, I guess
Right?
I guess he talked to the driver at least in Italian to like tell him where to take her, but like that was it. Like he had no love for her.
Yeah, I was more so thinking like, because I mean she had 2 big bags, so she clearly been there for a minute. So I'm thinking, was he sad that she's leaving? I don't know, but Bellagio, Baloney, I don't know, but I need him to get it together. We're going to talk a little bit more about him further along, but let's move on to the next topic. So, so she is a writer. We got to introduce her. She's a great writer. Her first book was called Chronicles of a Fed Up Millennial. Sounds like something I'll read. And she has some fans, as we saw when she got back to London. People were like, "Oh my gosh, it's you, Arabella!" So she's pretty good at what she does. So she's now working on her second book, and she has her agents that have been hounding her, like, "Get this draft done, get this draft done." So fast forward, she's back in London. We get introduced to her friends. So we meet Kwame and Terry and Simon. So I don't know if we're gonna call Simon a friend just yet, but she has this draft to do, and so instead of her just getting it done, she decides to go out. Now, before we get to that, before we get to her going out, we see that Simon has a girl. Her name is Kat. Now, Kat is into a good time. If you guys know what a good time is, she wants Simon to bring someone back into the bed. So he already has something plotted. He already has a girl he's been secretly messing around with, and they meet up. So I want to ask you guys, before we break down if Simon's a true friend or not, did you see, so Allison is the girl that they have the date with. So did you guys think that Allison, was Kat aware what Allison and Simon had going on when they had the initial meetup? And I'll start with
No.
Okay,
not at all. Oh, sorry. I was caught off guard. I thought, the girl was like, "I want to meet y'all. This sounds so interesting." And then what I thought was very strange is all of a sudden she gets a text and now she has to leave. I thought it was really strange. I'm like, did you just want to see what they were about and see if it was really going to happen? But then when she said, "I've been sleeping with him for 6 months," I was like, no, what? It was just, I had a lot of questions because how did they just happen to scroll past her on the app? And how did he convince the wife to like choose her? You know what I mean? It was like some interesting, I don't know, but I was just like, wow, he's dirty.
Yeah.
I think it's probably like, she was probably in the area, how Tinder kind of is. So maybe she was just in the area, and that even makes it even worse. But what if they live in the same building?
He plotted it for sure. He pulled her up and was like, "She gonna like her. I got it." I think he knew what he had it planned out.
He had to.
Yeah, well, it was interesting too because they did a good job of kind of bait and switching us. Because for me, after that scene when she leaves the house, I was like, Alissa was only interested in one person, and it wasn't him. Right? Like, so I really felt like she was into the wife.
Yeah.
So then when they flip it on us, like I was like, oh, okay. It's like that. Okay. Now it all makes more sense. So I thought they did a good job of distracting us with that.
They definitely distracted us, and because I feel like we didn't get the answers to the end of the episode, so along we're just kind of coasting by. And I wanted to say how the episode was going. I thought something was going to happen with Arabella and Alissa, or Arabella and Kat, how they're kind of stringing along, but that didn't happen. So, Arabella, she ends up going out and she sets a timer on her phone, which I thought was so hilarious.
This was the longest hour I've ever.
Yes.
Girl,
oh my God, they did a lot.
Karaoke was about 45-30 minutes, but okay. So she sets this alarm and she goes out, and she's making time. She goes out to karaoke. She's having a good time. Started with some drugs. Starts going. They goes to drink. And things start to happen really fast. And I want to ask you guys, there was a white man, which we're going to see more of him in the flashbacks, but there was a white guy that was with them at the club while they were dancing, and that same white guy was the same one in her flashbacks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So she gets drugged. So long story short, she does get drugged after that night, and we'll talk more into the flashbacks and what happens with that. But I want to ask you guys, so we feel like Simon has something to do with it, but we see that this white guy that was turning up with them was in her flashback. So do you think that Simon had something, like told the guy to do something to Arabella? Because they're supposed to be best friends. Simon and Arabella are supposed to be very great friends. You see the dynamic of their friendship when, when they meet up, they're like, hello, all that. So they're pretty tight. So it's kind of like, do you think Simon would have set her up, or he really was just like in his own little world? He had Alissa. He was probably trying to go home and get it in. So was it like an honest mistake, or do you think he really has something to do with this? And I want to ask you, Sana, because you look like you're ready.
It's really weird. And like, first of all, if he does, you can never put anything past people, because people can surprise you. But if he does, he is grimy. And I better not see him in the LA streets, because I will have to tell him about himself. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, because I just can't trust anybody who cheats on their girlfriend or significant other. How are we supposed to trust you? Because when he got that text message in the club saying like, oh, I told you it would work, and that whole thing, I was already through for alley-oop. So I wouldn't put it past him. I think maybe, and he was acting kind of, weird when she's asking him about, what happened. He acts like he doesn't remember. And he's the one who gave her the code, because he put it on his hand and she sniffed a little bit of it. This is why cocaine is not the drug to do. But I mean, I'm not promoting any drugs, but like, don't do that one. But that was just, I don't know. I think him and the guy probably have some correlation, but my biggest question would be, what is how close are they tied together?
Okay. Anyone else?
I just, obviously we're seeing him in the flashback, so he's definitely involved. But I think it's too easy for it to just be him. I don't know that it's Simon, or I get more from Simon so far that it was one of those things like he was in his own world and just kind of like, oh, sorry, I'm doing my thing, and you got to handle yourself. I don't get a malicious vibe from Simon. I definitely get shady though. He's shady he's all forms of shady.
Real shady.
Yeah, but I think there's more to this story that obviously we're going to find out later. And it's not just the one guy that she keeps seeing. Obviously, I think he's involved, but I think there's other stuff going on here.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. I think that maybe Simon knows what happened though, because why else would he lie? He lied to Arabella about everything after. He didn't walk with her to her place at all. And when she started questioning him, he got like, it was just like, why wouldn't you just tell me? No, I wasn't with you. You were drunk, out of your mind. You got in a cab, and we don't know what happened. So I guess my thing is lying for a reason.
And I'm glad you said that, Lauren, because we're going to go ahead and segue into episode 2. So episode 2, that's when we kind of got more answers we did get. And I really want to say something real fast about what Sanai said about the giving her the coke or whatever. I was kind of thinking like, is that could have been what drugged her? So it's when we watch that one scene where they're partying and turning up, it's kind of like, at what point was she drugged? But of course, I'm sure they'll show us that. But episode 2, so it starts off with her having lunch with Terry, and Terry's like, they're talking about Terry's audition, how she went out last night. Terry didn't get an invite, and how we're looking at this, Terry should have been there because Arabella would have been safe. But I love Terry. I wanted to say I love Terry. And so they call Simon. So she, so now Arabella has this knot on her forehead. Her phone is broken. We see her throughout this whole episode have flashbacks. She's not knowing what's going on, trying to remember things. And so they call Simon, like Lauren mentioned, and he's basically like saying, "You were good. We got you in the cab. I went back to old boy's hotel." He's really painting this narrative like she was okay, but clearly she's not okay. So it's like, okay, someone's lying. So so she keeps visualizing the white man in the bathroom stall at that. So it's like she's putting the pictures together, but it's not really making sense. So when I want to ask, when she goes to Kat and Simon's apartment, did you guys think that Kat has something to do with it initially, or do you think she's just as clueless as to what's going on? Because I mean, in the beginning, it seems like Kat was down with the threesome, like she's in on it. But as we see more and more, it's kind of like Kat has no clue who she's involved with. That I'm starting to think. So, do you think Kat has any type of role in this, or do you think she's just completely clueless to everything?
I think she's clueless to everything. Because you saw how fast she left when the girl basically wasn't committing to a threesome. She left the club so fast that I don't think she didn't care about what happened the rest of the night. She just wanted to go home. So I think the only reason she even found out that her husband was cheating on her was because Arabella came to the apartment and started going through the phone and saying, "Send me your Uber receipt."
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was interesting too that Arabella, when she was asking Simon initially about what happened, she was almost finishing his sentence for him. Like she didn't even really let him answer. She was like, "We were good, right? Okay, good. We're good. All right. Now I can relax." And it was kind of a weird thing. I'm like, and then that's of course where Terry was. She was worried. But as far as Kat goes, I don't think she's involved though. I think she's clueless, and we'll get to it eventually. But I think we saw later how clueless she really is.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree with everything Sean and Lauren was saying. I think she's clueless, but I mean, we don't know because this show might take us for an alley-oop. And what if she was involved? Like that would be crazy if she was. And she needs to win an Academy Award and an Oscar because she made it believable that she was not involved.
Yeah, she really did. And I want to say, so, she was checking her bank statements to try to retrace her steps, like what happened last night. Then, of course, she pulled up on Simon, got his Uber receipts, ran out with them. And so I didn't think with the Uber receipts, she was going to actually go retrace the Uber or where the destination was. But so she ends up retracing her steps and ends up at Alyssa's apartment. Now, I wasn't expecting Alissa. I don't know who I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting her. And so that's when we got the confirmation that, her and Simon have been dating messing around for 6 months. How basically she was in on the whole meetup with Kat earlier. Kat had no idea. So I'm like, okay, so this girl is with the shits, basically. Like, okay, great. So then, but meanwhile, Arabella's there to kind of see if she can give her some insight, like, "Hey girl, what happened to you last night?" And she's giving the total opposite. And, she's basically saying that you're calling Simon a rapist. She's like, Simon's a great person. We've been doing this for so long. He's not a criminal. And, and Arabella's like, "Well, I think he done something to me." And she's not trying to hear it. So I'm kind of interested to see how their relationship kind of goes and how she plays this part out, because, I mean, she's believing it, we're not believing it. Are you guys believing that he's a rapist, or are we going to say Simon's a criminal just yet, or are we going to hold off for now? Are we with Alissa or Arabella on this one?
I think I'm gonna hold off now.
Yeah.
But I did think it was very weird how, Arabella, she's best friends with Simon, so she's known him so long. So she's not really just trying to throw him under the bus. She's for real trying to figure it out. And meanwhile, Alissa is defending this man she just met. And she did admit that she also did drugs and she blacked out and ended up at her apartment. So I'm kind of like, you should maybe want to hear this girl out and y'all could help each other figure out what happened at night, So I didn't really like how she just went off, like literally went off on her.
No sympathy.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, the lady protested too much. Like, damn, girl, like she's just trying to figure out what happened. Like, why are you all up in her like that?
But she's
It just didn't make sense to me. I mean, and also the fact that she blacked out too. I'm like, why would you not be like, well, something happened here. We got, like you said, I don't know why. And I think this happens unfortunately a lot with women that they don't come together. Like y'all need to come together and help each other, right?
You're
Like I
preaching to the
mean,
choir.
yeah. I'm just saying, like if Jew you got roofied, something went down. This was not a coincidence.
Yeah. And she should be concerned too. Like you said, you got blacked out too, girl.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the time she needs to start rethinking. I think it's still, we need some more evidence. Not saying that he didn't, because he's looking real suspect. But I think this is also the time for her to kind of think back in the past. Like, what other kind of things are kind of questionable about him? And like I said, for everyone watching, you cannot, how do you literally, you can't trust anyone who really like cheats and actively cheats on their significant other too, because they have two different personalities and they're able to sleep just fine at night with knowing that. So, and that's betrayal too. So,
and you know it's crazy. You keep bringing up the point that you can't trust him because he cheats. And it really is crazy because his wife is basically saying, you can sleep with someone else, but just involve me. And he's not even doing that. So yeah, that says even more about him, honestly, in my opinion.
Write it down in your journals. I don't say nothing but the truth. And it's the truth. You can't trust people like that because it's not being honest. Especially, she's one of the very few women that I think would go for like stuff in that way.
Girl, have you been watching TV lately?
I mean, you know, some people, I mean, it's a community of them. It's a community of them. But, you know, I'll speak for myself. I don't like to share my men, but if I wouldn't want to, but everyone is to their own. But I just think it's weird that he wouldn't even, why, the bigger question I need answered is, why won't he tell her? Like, if she's cool with it, what does this other woman have? Like, did they used to have? It's something that just doesn't sit right, and why he wouldn't tell her if she's going to be down for it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This whole first 2 episodes, I was confused, but I was understanding. But I'm like, why is it not connecting yet? I don't know what's going on. But what did connect is Arabella. She realized that yes, I was drugged. She tells Terry that someone did spike my drink, and so she goes to the police. And what I would hope anyone would do in this situation, but she goes to the police, and I love me some Kwame because he's a real friend. So far, so good. He don't change on us because I already don't like Simon. So be a part of it. But Kwame was a real friend. He goes with her to the do the investigation. And this kind of, for me, this scene kind of touched me because, I feel like she already knows something happened to her. But like once the ladies ask her more questions, like, or how are you visualizing this? Can you see the whole face? Like just asking her those deep questions, she kind of it's like she keeps realizing more like, wow, I think I'm the one that something really happened. And, she breaks down. So that scene for me was just very emotional. And I want to say I'm proud of how she handled it though, because when she found out what happened, she wasn't like sad about it. She was like, yo, Terry, girl, I got spiked. I'm not saying she was okay with it, but I didn't get the reaction that I thought I would have gotten out of her. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys follow me, but I want to see more what happens with that. And I want to talk a little bit really fast about Terry. So we all know that Terry, she's having these auditions, she's trying to come up on the come up, and she had this, it's a campaign for like, hair, clothes, all these different types of things. And hers is for hair. And in the midst of the interview, the lady asked her, is that your real hair? Is this a wig? Can you take it off? Because we want to wash it. And she asked, can she take it off? And she says no. So I want to ask you guys, well, Sean, I don't know if you can relate, but if you want to just give an opinion, be my guest. But they asked her, could you take it off? And she says no. So I want to ask you ladies, did you take any type of personal feel to that, or can you relate? How did that make you feel?
Yes. I mean, I just couldn't believe they asked her to take her wig off. And then she said, well, I would have prepared it. You think we're just going to show everything underneath? And that kind of, like, I felt that scene too, because when I go out on auditions, I always wonder, how should I do my hair? Because I'm natural, but obviously I can straighten it. I wear wigs sometimes. Sometimes I have braids. So, like, my hair is always different. So when I go into the room, I'm always kind of thinking they're going to be like, oh, she doesn't look like this picture. So I can definitely relate. And one time I went for an audition for a beauty campaign as well. And they were asking questions about my hair. And I'm kind of like, it's 2020. You guys are still asking these same questions.
Wow.
I'm glad they brought it up because it's definitely a conversation that happens, especially in this day and time. California had just passed the law in where you cannot be discriminated against your hair, and that just got passed, and that's crazy to me. And I think with asking those certain questions, it can get very personal, and some they know that it can kind of like get that way. And also, as being a Black woman, we wear our hair very, like you said, Lauren, we can wear it in braids, we can wear it natural, we can, do so many different styles with it. So to me, appropriate questions would be, do you have other looks, in your headshots or things like that, versus like asking somebody, can they take their wig off? Can you take yours off? Like, I don't like, to me, it's just rude. And there's other ways you can say things. And I know you guys can relate, especially when you're going on auditions or even doing hosting like we're doing now. You're always scared. Okay, is it okay for me to wear natural hair? Can I wear it straight? Is it because I don't know if you guys have ever had this before, when you go on your job and at first you had your hair like, natural or something, and then you switch it and then you have your wig on and it's long and they're like,
people swear you're a whole different person.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the number one question they ask you is, oh my God, your hair is so long. How do you get it like that? And your hair just grew so fast.
Or
And
just,
you're like,
your hair looks different. I know it's a different hairstyle.
That
those questions. Why can't you just say like, hey, your hair looks nice? Just a quick story. I remember working in corporate, and one time an individual kind of like outed me out and said I had wore my hair, I had a wig and it was long and it was straight, professional like, and she says, oh, one of the ladies said, oh, your hair looks so nice. And the other person was like, hey, tell her it's the wig. I'm like,
why?
Wow.
Girl.
Why? Hater, why?
I have no idea. That's the question that we can add it to the list. But it's just, our hair is just so unique. It's our art. It's how we describe ourselves and make us, feel comfortable.
Well, I'll just say, obviously I don't get that question. The only question I get is, are you willing to shave? But
Okay.
just to one of your points of that, like, we all like spend all this money getting all these headshots, all these looks. Can you just swipe on my profile and then you can see how I look with different hair or whatever? Like, what's going on? Like, why do we put ourselves through all this money and all, and then you can't just swipe to the right? I mean, we've all been to that audition too. And I love that thing. What's the most freeing thing you've ever done? And it's like, go F yourself. What do you mean?
That was hilarious.
It has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. Anyway.
How ironic her answer was a threesome at that.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
I was like, okay, you after you think about it, this is what you come up with. Okay, babe, very freeing. So really quick, let's just wrap up episode 2. So it ended with Kat showing up at Alissa's door as well. So I guess she followed in Arabella's steps and tracked the Uber receipts. But she ended up at Alissa's house. Alissa's like, girl, I ain't got time tonight. I guess Alissa thought she was there to get it in. I don't know. But she's like, girl, I don't got time tonight. And she closes the door. So I guess we'll see episode 3, what happened, if anything happens. But I just thought that was kind of, I like how they ended it with that because it kind of left us thinking like, what the heck is going to happen? So Any last thoughts on that before we move on to our segments?
I also like just to for the way Terry reacted to when she said, "I told you I was leaving," right? And it's almost that
Yes.
thing of like her taking that on, like maybe I didn't. Like she's definitely feeling guilty about what happened. So I thought that just kind of speaks to Terry's character.
Yeah, the way she cried, I was just like, wow, like this is really personal to her. It was like, oh, okay. Maybe she felt like she let her friend down, but
Mhm.
she also truly believed, I did tell you I was leaving.
Well, let's get into our special segment for Lauren.
Okay, so I'm still working out a more permanent special segment, but for tonight, since we saw the first two episodes, I guess my question is, what is okay? How I make it appropriate. Tell me one of your funniest stories going out with a group of friends. Like if anything crazy happens.
Wow.
Appropriate if you can.
I
Dang, when's the last time I've been out? Let me.
know, right?
Pre-COVID.
I'm gonna let one of y'all go while I manifest a thought.
Okay, well I'll go. I guess I'll start it. Okay, so I guess mine would be when I went to Vegas. And everyone knows Vegas is crazy. But long story short, I was paranoid and I thought we were being followed. So we ended up just telling our Uber to take us to a CVS, and I could have sworn that the security guard was watching me the whole time, and he started following me. Like he literally started following me. So I literally just stopped in the middle of the CVS and just started crying, and I said, "Stop following me!" And then he was like, "Whoa, I'm so sorry."
Wow. I think you won.
I'm glad, but that's a good thing though, because I mean you don't know what it could have ended up being. So I mean, if it was something, you stopped it. So that's
yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with women in the world right now. So I know
Exactly.
so it's very good to always stay aware because listen, you never know. Anyone else have a story?
I have maybe a little bit lighter one, but I will. This is to your point, Sarah. You got to keep your head on a swivel, especially if you're a woman. I tell my wife all the time, like you got to know, always look what's going on, because anyway, a little lighter. This is back in like high school. We were maybe college. We had this one friend. We called him Uncle Crazy because he just was always crazy. And at one point, me and my friend were at the bar, and our crazy friend Dave is literally kind of being by four bouncers just taken out of the club. Like, and I looked at my friend Kurt. I said, "Well, guess it's time to go."
Got a little too rowdy.
Yeah, he got a little too rowdy. It's funny. I actually knew one of the bouncers. He said, "Sorry, Sean, your boy. Yeah, he's no good. He's got to go." I'm like, no, it's all good. I get it. Anyway.
Oh, go. You got
no.
See, I don't think I have any like crazy stories, like on a oh my gosh, let me share. But I know for my friends, what we do a lot, you gotta have your friends back. Like you have to be safe right here, right? So I know for me and my friends, you know, we don't let each other go nowhere by ourselves. If it's a group of us, if I gotta go to the bathroom, if I need to go back to a bar, one of y'all going with me. So we play that code. I don't know if you girls done this before, but we always go out with fake names. So people can be annoying, so we just give a fake name, get them a face, you know. So just having we have a code to stay protected. And I remember one time, I can't remember where I was. I can't remember where we went, but I had to play like there was a guy kept trying to talk to my friend. You know how guys can be like they don't understand no, or I have a boyfriend. They don't care about that no more. So I had to like act like her girlfriend. You know, like when they give you that in distress, like, oh gosh. So I was like, oh, I was like, basically, I think I was just like, she has a girlfriend, and I don't think, you know, I just played the part, and you know, he was like, oh, okay. So I think that's the craziest I can think of, but be there for your friends, ladies. You need it. Gotta get out of there.
Yes.
I feel like I have like quite a few, especially if I think about it, because it's a lot of crazy stuff that happens to me. Can it be an individual story? Because I know I can come up with that one real quick.
Yes. Anything you want to share?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I was in a fake lift. And
What?
yes.
Wait, what?
A fake lift.
I got a tip for you about that. Go
Wow.
ahead and share.
Yes. So I got in it was so weird. I think it was around BT weekend, I believe. And I was going downtown, but then the destination got switched and they're like, okay, we're going to stay into a different part of Los Angeles. So I got in the lift. And so I'm like, okay, he's never even passed my street. Like he's still on the same street I live on. I'm like, hey, can you just drop me off? Like turn around real quick, drop me off. I still have the money. Just drop me off. You know, I'm going to call someone else. He's like, no. I'm like, what you mean no? And the license plates matched, by the way, right? So we're driving, and he picks up another ride. And I'm like, hey, we're still not far from me. Can you just turn around really quick and just drop me off? He's like, no, he refused to drop me off on any main streets, only side streets. So I'm like, what the heck? And so I'm yelling at him, like, let me out. I just want to get let out. And the lady next to me was like, just let her out. Like, it's not serious. So long story short, it was God, because he ended up back on my street. And when I got out, I said, I'll make sure you never drive left again. So I'm trying to take pictures of his license plate. It was blurry because he sped off. And from there, when I went back in my Lyft history to report him, he was never in the history. So
Wow.
yeah, and at that time, you know, some people, you got to be careful because some people hack into like Lyft and stuff like that, and they can put themselves in the system, some crazy stuff. But yeah, that's something crazy that happened. And if you were the girl in the Lyft, because you know the exact story I'm talking about, please comment and let me know that you're safe. But that's a crazy one.
No, yeah, we really have to be safe with these Lyfts and Ubers because I've heard a lot of stories actually. So I'm glad that you were safe, and that was God for sure. Okay.
I was gonna get out.
Yes. that was a little spicy. You put us on the spot. I had to think. But
Yes.
So really quickly, if we can do news and gossip really quickly.
I was gonna say maybe you want to save it for next week. I think we might be out of time.
Okay, perfect. So we can definitely do that. So thank you guys for tuning in to this first season. We talked about episode 1 and 2. So make sure you tune in next week to talk about episode 3. I'm your host, Sierra Stafford. You can find me on my Twitter at Sierra B. Stafford and my Instagram at Sierra Stafford TV. And Lauren, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Lauren the Truth.
Okay, Sean.
On the gram at SeanStar75 and on Twitter at Gorilla Suit Sean, and on the Council of Dads after show Friday at 7 p.m.
Yes. Tonight.
Yes, you guys can follow me on Instagram at IAM_SANA_ and on Twitter as well as IAM_Sana.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys next week, every Monday, 6 p.m. See you guys then.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.